He didn't even bother lowering his voice. "Did you actually finish school?" he sneered. "Or are you just guessing what wine tastes like?" The insult landed hard, echoing through the dining room like a drop plate. Silas Mercer, a billionaire tech icon, famous for his money, his influence, and his contempt for anyone he believed beneath him. He lounged in a tall velvet chair at the Monarch, Manhattan's most elite steakhouse, eyes sharp and merciless as they locked onto Alicia Carter Young. She was new, barely 2 weeks into the job, black, young, and suddenly very alone. She stood rigid beside the table, a red wine bottle clutched in trembling hands. Label perfectly aligned, presentation flawless, except for one thing. It was the wrong bottle. She knew at the instant his expression changed. Moments earlier at the crowded wine station, she'd stepped away for seconds. That was all it took. Rachel, tall, blonde, always smiling a little too tight, had switched the bottles. A 2014 Lafite, replaced with a 2015 Powayak. Nearly identical. Nearly. Too late now. "I believe this is—" Alicia started, her voice unsteady. "Don't!" Mercer snapped. He snatched the glass, swirled it theatrically, inhaled, then took a sip, his face twisted in disgust. "This is a joke." "I'm sorry, sir. There may have been a mix-up." "A mix-up?" He rose slowly, menace unfolding with him. "No, this is incompetence in an apron." Alicia's eyes flicked toward the sommelier station. Rachel was watching, smiling. Then she turned away. "I'll replace it immediately," Alicia said, her hands shaking now. Mercer laughed loudly, deliberately. Heads turned. "Of course it's your fault. Who else could mess up something this simple? This is the only thing people like you are supposed to get right." He stepped closer. "Say something useful," he hissed. "Or shut up." Alicia froze. Humiliation burned through her as she searched for the manager. Too far. Too busy. "I'm just trying to," she whispered. That's when it happened. His hand struck without warning. Open-palmed. Brutal. The crack echoed through the room like a gunshot. Alicia staggered back, hit the table, and collapsed to the floor. A thin line of blood traced her lip. Someone gasped. A glass shattered nearby. She pushed herself up slowly, dazed, fingers pressed to her cheek. Mercer loomed over her. "You're lucky that's all you got." He lifted his leg. A kick, but this time she moved. Her hand shot up, catching his ankle midair. The grip was instant, precise, controlled. Mercer wobbled. Panic flashed across his face as his balance failed. "You shouldn't have done that," Alicia said quietly. Her voice was different now. Steady, calm, with a smooth, practiced motion. She stepped in, twisted his ankle, and redirected his momentum. Mercer crashed to the floor in a heap, gasping. Silence. Phones were out everywhere. Recording. Streaming. Watching. Alicia stood over him, blood still at her lip, hands relaxed at her sides. "Self-defense," she said clearly. She didn't run, didn't cry, didn't explain. She waited, because she didn't need to prove anything. The room remained frozen. Guests, staff, even the kitchen, stunned by the sight of a powerful man broken on the floor, and a young black waitress standing above him, unshaken. Peter, the floor manager, finally pushed through the crowd. "Alicia, are you okay?" She didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on Mercer as he groaned. "He hit me," she said coolly. "I defended myself." Alicia's voice was steady as she said it. Peter looked down at Mercer and muttered a curse under his breath. The older man's face had drained of color, his chest rising and falling in short, uneven pulls. He wasn't seriously hurt, not in the way a man is after a real beating. But something else had been damaged. His pride, his carefully polished image had shattered in front of Manhattan's elite. Alicia wiped the corner of her mouth. The blood had already begun to dry. "Call an ambulance," someone whispered. "And the police?" Another voice added. Phones were already out. Multiple calls in progress. Mercer's dinner guests, two men Alicia hadn't even noticed before, stood nearby in stiff silence. They hadn't intervened when Mercer struck her. Hadn't said a word when he raised his foot to kick. Now they stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. Peter turned sharply to a server. First aid kit. Ice packs. Now. Staff scattered. At the edge of the service corridor, Rachel stood half hidden by the wall. Her fingers were knotted tight in her apron. She didn't speak. Her face gave nothing away. Mercer finally pushed himself upright. One hand braced on the floor, the other pressed his chest. Confusion flickered across his features. Then fury. "She attacked me," he rasped. "You all saw it." Alicia met his gaze. "You hit me first," she said evenly. "Then you tried to kick me." Her words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. The proof was already everywhere. A teenage boy at a nearby table whispered excitedly into his phone. "I got the whole thing. The slap, the kick, all of it." Peter scanned the room, suddenly aware of how exposed they all were. "Let's move to the back," he said gently to Alicia. She shook her head. "I'm not leaving the floor. I didn't do anything wrong." He exhaled. "Okay, then just stand by the wall, away from him." She nodded and moved closer to the bar. Visible, calm, upright, not a tear fell. Not a single apology left her lips. The ambulance arrived first. EMTs rushed in with a stretcher kneeling beside Mercer. By now, he had exaggerated his discomfort enough to look nearly incapacitated. Between shallow breaths, he told his version. Claims of being violently attacked, of an unhinged employee, of an unprovoked assault. The EMTs listened, but their eyes shifted. One of them had already seen the video. It had gone viral within half an hour. The police arrived moments later. 3 officers, 2 white men, and a black woman with a sharp gaze and a notepad already open. "We've reviewed the footage," she said after brief introductions. "We'll take statements, but from what we've seen so far, this appears to be self-defense." Alicia handed over her ID without hesitation. "Alicia Carter. He struck me. Then he tried to kick me. I stopped him." Peter nodded quickly. "I saw the slap." And not just him. At least half the room had seen it happen. The other officers were focused on Mercer now, who lay strapped to the stretcher, releasing weak sounds of outrage between shallow breaths. "She should be arrested," he muttered. "I'll sue this place into the ground." "You're free to pursue charges, sir," one officer replied evenly. "But this doesn't appear to be as clear-cut as you think." Outside, the crowd was growing. Word had spread fast. Someone had tagged a local reporter online, and within minutes a news van rolled up to the valet stand. Red and blue lights flickered across the restaurant windows. The Monarch had transformed. Part crime scene, part media spectacle, part public courtroom, all in less than an hour. Rachel was gone. Peter would later learn she'd slipped out through the employee exit during the chaos. No explanation. No goodbye. Her phone went unanswered that night. And the next, after statements were completed, the lead officer handed Alicia a card. "If you need anything, support, protection, call this number. You're not in trouble, but this is going to get loud." Alicia took the card, nodded once, and tucked it into her apron pocket. As the officer turned to leave, she paused and glanced back. "You've had training," she said. It wasn't a question. Alicia hesitated, then answered quietly, "A long time ago." The officer smiled faintly. "Whoever taught you, tell them it worked." With that, the police and paramedics exited. Mercer was wheeled out under flashing cameras. He kept his eyes down, never once meeting Alicia's gaze. Or perhaps he couldn't. Peter approached her again, slower this time. "You sure you're okay?" "I'll finish my shift," Alicia said. Her tone left no space for argument. He nodded, then added gently, "You don't have to. Take the night. On me." She thanked him softly and walked to the locker room. The apron came off. In the mirror above the sink, she saw the thin red line drying at the corner of her mouth, the faint bruise beginning to darken beneath her eye. She studied her reflection for a long moment, as if she were looking at someone new, someone older, quieter, stronger. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to speak. Outside, the world had already begun speaking for her. By the time Alicia stepped out the back entrance of the Monarch, the air had cooled. An autumn breeze drifted down West 63rd Street, carrying traffic noise, distant horns, and the low murmur of a city that never truly rests. But tonight, New York had paused. Not for her name, at least not yet. For her image. A frozen frame captured mid-motion. Her arm extended, her hand locked around Silas Mercer's ankle. A billionaire halted in midair by a woman half his size. The clip was everywhere. Reddit, TikTok, Twitter. Hashtags multiplied by the minute. Hashtag Waitress Warrior. Hashtag Justice for Alicia. Hashtag Silas struck out. Alicia didn't check her phone. She didn't need to. She'd learned long ago. Silence was her first armor. She walked the 6 blocks home to her apartment in Hell's Kitchen, a modest second-floor studio above an aging laundromat with a flickering neon sign. The stairs creaked as she climbed them. Inside, the space smelled faintly of lavender and old wood. Familiar. Safe. She set her apron on the counter, slipped off her black flats, and went to the bathroom. The mirror told the truth. Her lip was split. A bruise was blooming along her cheekbone. She touched it lightly. It stung, but it wasn't the worst pain she'd ever known. Not even close. In the cabinet above the sink, she reached past gauze and ointment and pulled out a small wooden box. Smooth, worn from years of handling. The latch clicked open. Inside lay 2 tightly rolled hand wraps, deep burgundy, faded with age. She hadn't touched them in 3 years. A voice echoed in her memory. Gravelly, southern, exhausted. Don't fight unless you have to. But if you do, finish it. Coach Daniels. Her mentor. Her way out. The man who refused to let the world grind her into silence. Alicia closed the box gently. She cleaned her lip, iced her cheek, then sat at the small kitchen table. Her phone buzzed against the counter, vibrating under the weight of incoming notifications. Messages, voicemails, unknown numbers. She turned it face down. She'd spent most of her life unseen. Now she was everywhere. At 10:41 p.m., the call came, not from a reporter or a lawyer, but from Peter. She answered. "Hey," he said quietly. "I know it's late. Just checking on you." "I'm okay," she replied. "I figured," he said. "You're tougher than you look." She released the faintest laugh. "They took Mercer to Mount Sinai," Peter continued. "He's stable, mostly just a bruised ego." She said nothing. "Cops confirmed you're in the clear. Legally." Video helped. Witnesses, too. Alicia closed her eyes. "Good." There was a pause. "But," Peter added, his tone shifting, "the press is circling. Hard. It's going to get ugly fast." "I assumed. They've been calling the restaurant nonstop. Corporates are scrambling. Lawyers everywhere." She rubbed her temple. "Do I still have a job?" He hesitated. "Technically, yes. Off the record, corporate's nervous. Mercer has money. Reach. They'll try to spin this." "Probably," she murmured. But the world saw what happened. "If you need anything," Peter said, "a reference, a place to crash. You name it." "Thank you. You handled yourself better than anyone I've seen in 30 years of restaurants." After the call ended, Alicia sat in silence. A siren wailed somewhere in the distance, then faded. At 11:22 p.m., her phone rang again. Blocked number. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again, and again. On the 4th attempt, she answered. There was a pause. Then a man's voice measured, calm. "Ms. Alicia Carter." "This is Nolan Graves," the man said. "I'm an attorney representing Mr. Silas Mercer." Alicia's jaw tightened. She said nothing. "I want to be clear," Graves continued evenly. "I'm not calling to intimidate or accuse. I'm calling to discuss a resolution." Silence. "My client is considering a public apology, a carefully worded statement, possibly a private settlement, to prevent further media escalation." When Alicia finally spoke, her voice was cold, unwavering. "Your client slapped me, called me trash, tried to kick me in a crowded restaurant." "I understand," Graves replied quickly. And I know you've likely received many calls tonight, people hoping to shape this narrative, profit from it, exploit it. I'm not interested in anything that requires my silence. Another pause. Then Graves said carefully, "Perhaps we'll speak again soon. Good night, Miss Carter." The line went dead. Alicia stared at the wall. Resolution, control, silence. Words men like Mercer use to wrap their shame in expensive language. She stood, crossed the room, and pulled an old duffel bag from the top shelf of her closet. Inside, gym clothes, running shoes, and a pair of worn MMA gloves. Beside them lay a folded navy sweatshirt. Hudson Women's Boxing League stitched across the chest. She hadn't needed them in years. But the world, it seemed, had other plans. She sat back down and checked her phone. 1 missed call from her sister. 2 from a D.C. area code. A text from Peter. "You did the right thing." Another message from an unknown number. "You're a hero." A screenshot followed. A comment sent by a friend. She didn't flinch, didn't shout, didn't cry. She turned the phone off. Tomorrow would be louder. Tonight, she allowed herself to breathe. High above the city, Silas Mercer's penthouse towered over Manhattan. Glass and steel slicing the skyline like a blade. From the 68th floor of the Lucent Tower, he could see the city he believed belonged to him. Every street, every bridge, every glowing window. But tonight, for the first time in years, he felt small. Bruises darkened his ribs now, purple and sore. His ankle throbbed where she caught it, and his ego shattered like a crystal flute crushed beneath an unwanted foot. He lay on a leather chaise, shirt undone, untouched scotch sweating beside him. The television played silently. Still, he could read the headlines crawling across the screen. Asterisk billionaire assaults waitress. Gets taken down. Asterisk. No mention of his wealth, his charities, the jobs he'd created. Just a clip. That moment. That woman. Alicia Carter, his assistant had texted earlier, pulled straight from the police report. Now her name was everywhere. She's gone viral. Nolan Graves had said flatly, "You're the villain of the month. Maybe the year." I didn't hit her like some thug. Mercer had snapped, pacing. It was reflex. She disrespected me. She was doing her job. Graves replied, "You slapped her, then tried to kick her. On camera. There's no spinning that." Mercer had hurled the remote across the room. Now, hours later, the penthouse was silent. And beneath the bruises, beneath the rage, something unfamiliar pulsed in his chest. Fear. Not of prison. He had lawyers. Not of money. He had accounts across continents. But fear of losing control. His image. His story. His grip on how the world saw him. He stared at the ceiling and, for a brief moment, saw her face. Not angry. Not afraid. Still, that was what haunted him. Across town, Alicia sat in the corner booth of a small East Village cafe. Hood up, round sunglasses shielding her eyes. It was near midnight. The place was quiet, just a handful of NYU students studying, and an old man nursing black coffee like a final comfort. She stirred a lukewarm tea she didn't drink. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She silenced it. A moment later, someone slid into the seat across from her. "Told you one day you'd make the news," said Coach Daniels. He wore the same half-smile she remembered. Older now, hair grayer, movement slower, but the shoulders were still solid, familiar. A bomber jacket hung over a faded hoodie that read Hudson Boxing. "I didn't ask for this," Alicia said quietly. "I know," he replied, studying the bruise, the cut on her lip. "They never do." "She's still in there," he murmured. "The girl with the fists. And the fire." Alicia shook her head slightly. "I didn't hit him out of rage." Coach nodded. "I know. I didn't say you did. What you did was clean." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I watched the footage. You stepped in, shifted your weight, palm to the sternum." He tapped the table once. Perfect placement. Controlled. Precise. She looked down at her tea. "I just wanted him to stop." And he did. Coach said quietly. You ended it in one move. You probably saved his life. She finally took a sip. Coach studied her for a moment, then said, They're coming for you now. With money, lawyers, PR teams. They'll offer you everything if you stay quiet. I'm not interested in money. You should be interested in protection. Alicia looked up. You think this ends with a few tweets and cable news? He asked. Men like him don't fall clean. They take pieces of other people with them. She didn't answer. I saw what you did, Coach continued, softer now. But more than that, I saw how you did it. That wasn't just training, Alicia. That was restraint. A long silence settled between them. Then she said quietly, I wanted to hit him harder. Coach nodded once. But you didn't. That's why you'll be okay. Outside, a car rolled past with the radio turned up. Talk show hosts arguing about whether Mercer should step down from his boards. Someone on the sidewalk stopped, staring into the cafe window. Phone raised. Alicia turned her face away. Coach slid an envelope across the table. What's this? She asked. A place upstate, he said. Cabin. Key inside. No press. No noise. Just quiet. She hesitated, then tucked it into her jacket. I don't want to hide. It's not hiding, he replied. It's choosing peace. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out a small wooden box. Her breath caught. You kept it? Of course, he said. You left it behind like you were never coming back. He placed it gently on the table. Inside, neatly folded, a photograph of her in the ring. 12 years ago. Gloves raised. Sweat-soaked. Smiling. Beneath it, her first pair of competition gloves. Still marked. Still real. Alicia's throat tightened. Coach stood. You decide what kind of fight this is, he said. Just make sure it's for the right reason. She nodded, eyes fixed on the box. She watched him disappear down the street. Shoulders hunched, hands buried deep in his coat pockets. She stayed in the cafe another hour. Not hiding, not running, just deciding. By morning, her name wasn't just trending. It was a headline. Waitress takes down billionaire in self-defense. Woman floors tech tycoon with a single strike. Who is Alicia Carter? That last one had its own hashtag, and it was climbing fast. Reporters gathered outside the Monarch. Some dug up old boxing footage. Others traced her past. High school records, Hudson Boxing League, a short but brilliant amateur career she'd walked away from 6 years earlier. No arrests, no scandals, just silence. She still hadn't spoken to the press. She wasn't about to start. Her usual coffee shop on 9th Avenue closed early. Rosa, the owner, called her directly. Mija, don't come today, Rosa warned. They're already sitting in your spot. Cameras everywhere. Alicia thanked her and hung up. She stood by her window, blinds half drawn, watching the city breathe below. From here, Manhattan looked unchanged. Cabs, buses, people rushing, always late for something. But Alicia knew better. Today, the city wasn't just awake. It was watching. She finally picked up her phone. 47 missed calls. More messages than she could scroll through. 3 voicemails from her sister in Atlanta, and 1 from a number with a very familiar area code. Washington, D.C. She put the phone on speaker and played it. This is Special Agent Marlon Reeves with the Department of Justice. We're investigating a potential pattern of workplace abuse involving Mr. Silas Mercer. We'd like to speak with you when you're available. Alicia's stomach tightened. A pattern? She thought she was the beginning. Maybe she was just the first one who didn't bow. Before she could call back, the phone rang again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Alicia Carter? A woman asked. Yes. This is Lorraine Powell with Justice Now. We're a nonprofit that supports women facing public backlash after high-profile incidents involving violence or harassment, especially women of color. We're not attorneys. We're allies. Alicia stayed silent. We're not here to pressure you into speaking publicly or filing lawsuits. Lorraine continued. We just want you to know we see what's happening. And we know how fast things can turn. How fast what can turn. Alicia asked quietly. The narrative, Lorraine replied. The moment it stops being about what he did and becomes about how you reacted. She paused. You're strong, Alicia, but you shouldn't have to be strong by yourself. Something tightened in Alicia's chest. I'll think about it, she said. You have our number, Lorraine replied gently. We're not going anywhere. The call ended. Alicia tossed the phone onto the couch and sank into the cushions, rubbing her temples. In the kitchen, the kettle screamed. She ignored it. Instead, she opened her laptop. A single search pulled up dozens of versions of the same clip, edited, slowed, replayed. Her name tagged in every headline. Black waitress, self-defense, train fighter, palm strike, entitled billionaire. One video had already passed 12 million views. The night deepened. Alicia sat by the window, city lights flickering across her walls, casting shadows that danced like restless spirits. Each honking cab, each distant siren, was a reminder that life outside her apartment continued, but in a way that no longer dictated her own steps. She traced her fingers along the edges of the duffel bag. Gloves, sweat-stained sweatshirt, small, familiar tools of her strength, tools that reminded her she had always been capable, even before anyone else recognized it. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, she let it ring. Twice. 3 times. She did not answer. Not tonight. She did not need validation. Not from strangers. Not from reporters. Not from lawyers. A soft knock came at the door. Instinctively, she reached for the baseball bat she kept behind the door, a habit from years of training, a reminder of her readiness. But it was Peter. He looked exhausted, his suit wrinkled, the faintest bruises on his knuckles from dealing with Mercer's entourage and the press. "You okay?" he asked gently. "I am," she said, voice steady, almost serene. "I'm processing, making decisions." Peter nodded. He glanced at the laptop. The videos, they're everywhere. Some people are calling it the defining moment of the week. Your name's on every headline. And I'm not hiding, she said. Her eyes met his. I never will. Not from them. Not from me. Peter exhaled. Good. Just careful. People are hungry for narrative. They'll try to twist it. Alicia let a small smile appear. I know. That's why I haven't said a word. Let the truth speak. The next morning, the sun spilled through her blinds. The city was alive, buzzing, oblivious and yet watching. Her phone glowed with notifications. Voicemails, texts, alerts. Dozens more than the night before. DOJ Justice Now, concerned friends, distant relatives. Media requests, interview requests. Offers, threats, legal notices. She turned off the phone. Focus instead on the box coach had given her. Photograph, gloves, the weight of years. The reminder that she had always fought her battles, and always with purpose. By late afternoon, she walked out into the city streets. Hood up, sunglasses on. The air was crisp. People rushed past her, unaware of the power standing quietly among them. Cameras flashed from a distance. She didn't flinch, didn't hide, just walked, controlled, intentional. She stopped at a small park, the first quiet space she had found all day. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the grass. She sat on a bench, closed her eyes, and breathed. The noise of the city receded. The expectations of millions faded. She could feel her heartbeat. Strong, steady, calm. A notification buzzed softly on her phone. She picked it up. A text from Lorraine Powell. Asterisk, you're making the right choices. Remember, strength is not only in action, it's in restraint, in deciding your fight, in knowing when to move and when to wait. Asterisk, Alicia's lips curved into a small, satisfied smile. Yes, that was it. Her fight, her rules, her life. Somewhere above in Mercer's penthouse, Silas stared at the same city through glass walls. But the fear lingered, not just of legal or financial consequences, not even of reputation. Fear of power lost. Fear that one act, one precise strike, could change a narrative and the world's perception forever. And Alicia? She walked away from the park, gloves in her bag, head high, every step measure controlled, deliberate. The city watched, yes, but she no longer needed the world's permission. She had reclaimed her narrative, her space, and her strength. Tonight, Manhattan might sleep, but Alicia Carter was awake, and she was unshakable. The next morning, Manhattan pulsed with its usual chaos.